Hello. I think we are gathering slowly. It's 4 minutes to noon, and I would like to welcome all. We will still wait for additional minutes before we start. Professor Ainai, hello.
Hello, good
Mikey,
morning.
hello.
How are you?
Yeah, hello. If you want to speak, you need to unmute. Dr. Shaul Shai, are you with us? We just seeing ventilator on your roof. Mikey Jensen, hello, sir. How are you doing? Mr. Dai from Vietnam and many others. So we'll wait still for additional minutes before we start. We have some kind request from Professor Dr. Miljan Knežević, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Mathematics. He will be with us from his class. He's teaching and it's exam, and we will find out way how to give him, let's say, advantage. Maybe he will speak immediately after kind introduction word of Professor Rainai. So 3 more minutes before we start.
Okay, we wait for the others.
Yes.
With pleasure. And after can we start?
I see our Secretary General Darko Obradović is with us. He scared me to the death. I call even his wife because I thought he sleep over this session, and good. Hello, Natalia. Hello, Gordon. Welcome. I heard in Slovenia is a heavy rain. How is in Zagreb? Same or?
Shiny, happy people, but a rainy day.
Because
maybe Natalia is part of the city. Mine is not. It's shiny.
Are you in Zagreb or in Split? Where you are?
Zagreb.
In capital, okay. That's why you are laughing. Maybe in Split you will have a different face.
In Split I will be much happier face.
Okay.
In Zadar even better.
So much optimism in an introduction of this meeting.
We have 2 minutes still. We have 2 minutes left. And
hello,
we have
hello.
Dr. Shaul Shai. We don't see him, but we see ventilator.
Well,
I
it's
hope
hot.
his presentation will be like this ventilator as well.
But it means something. It's warm.
Yep, he's in Israel, so
I know.
Right now he's on some beach enjoying Mediterranean Sea.
Well, if I'm in Zadar now or Split, I would be in the coast. I will call you from my mobile.
Yeah. So we are still waiting people to join the meeting.
Where is Darko? The other one.
Oh, he's behind our big
Emblem.
eagle, you see.
So he's hiding.
He's hiding. You know, he let me on. I was scared on that because 10 minutes before, it was 11:50. I tried to call him. I could not reach him. Then I called his wife, and then he appeared right away.
That's the reason why I call you.
You see what is the supreme instance from the above.
They call it hybrid threat.
Oh, we call this a high or supreme instance.
Okay.
Or maybe also.
So you know when you're talking with your wife and when you are discussing about something and she said at the last, well, you have a right for your opinion, but at this moment you disagree with your opinion. Sorry for those husband and wife jokes.
No, we understand this perfectly.
I disagree even with my own opinions.
But you are not yet married. How do you understand it?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for you to be married.
Well, don't announce this publicly and so open. So it might be the consequence on the end of the day.
I know that Darko is going to record it and going to send it where it should be sent.
Yes.
Oh, Vasco is here also.
I hope you grab your copy, but Darko is behind this Inis. Darko, are you there? Are you alive? Darko.
Call his wife.
Yes. No, maybe.
How are you, my friend? I'm here.
Hi, Vasco.
Oh, Vasco. Hi, Vasco. How are you doing?
Fine. I'm busy today, but I find the time to see you guys because a lot of time I spent in home without anything else.
How's your health?
Okay, now I'm good. I have ups and down a little bit, but now it's okay. Super.
Great.
Do we have Professor Miljan with us? Miljan Knežević? I don't see the icon. Miljan, if you can hear us, please let us know. Oh, Miljan is with us. Good. So since it's noon, I think we shall start. First of all, I would like to thanks Professor Rainai Zoltan and his subordinate and assistant, Mr. Dai, PhD candidate in Obuda. I would like to thank Dr. Akrap from Institute of Hybrid Warfare and Centauri Association. We are actually organizing this webinar in cooperation between Obuda University and Institute for Hybrid Warfare, and of course, our Institute of National and International Security. Without any further ado, we will a little bit change our today agenda. Since Professor Knežević is with us, he is, as you can see, in the class with the students. But I would like to give first a word to Professor Zoltan to give us some introduction word. Professor Zoltan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much for Darko Trifunović and Dain Guyen to organize these meetings, this conference in webinarium. And good afternoon for everybody, the participants of this event. I think it's very important because the two countries has a lot of interesting questions. Not only in Serbia and in Hungary, but all countries in Europe and on the world to discuss about the cyber challenges and cyber security. So thank you so much as Dean of the Obuda University and Cyber Coordinator of Hungary. And I think everybody who participate can see very good presentations, and I think this afternoon it's a very good activities. So I would like thanks to Darko Trifunović and the University from Serbia to organize this meeting. So thank you, and I would like to wish everybody a very good conference in this afternoon.
Thank you, Professor Zoltan. As I said, we will change a little bit agenda because our professor, Miljan Knežević, as you can see, table is behind him, and I hope students in front, that now students of Faculty of Mathematics can learn something more from our Professor Knežević. And before Professor Knežević take the floor, I will say a few words. Institute of National and International Security will organize, I hope in future, master studies on cybersecurity together with Faculty of Mathematics. And right now there is negotiation and talks about how this course shall look like. And Professor Knežević is a pillar of IDEA, and I hope we will push this idea, and that next year we will have this master studies on level of University of Belgrade. Professor Knežević, since you are with the students and you are on your job, we don't want to allow students to wait anymore longer. So please, floor is yours. Unmute, please. Miljan, unmute microphone. Miljan, unmute the microphone, Miljan. Microphone. Miljan. Miljan?
You
Yes.
cannot.
Now it's okay. Now we can.
Aha. Okay, I'm now with my students and I have some oral exams with them, and my teaching assistant is ill, so I cannot find now any help to join this interesting and important seminar. First of all, I would like to greet you all. And I would like to congratulate to all of you who contributed to this seminar to happen. Especially, I would like to congratulate to Darko Trifunovic, because this is very important, not only for the Institute of National and International Security, but also for our country and our region, of course. Firstly, as you know, information security or cyber security is very important and modern field in security science, but not only in security science, also modern and interesting topics in mathematics, of course. In fact, we all know that there is more and more scientific papers dedicated to this important area, of course. And the curiosity is that in the last few years, many mathematicians and many mathematical works especially have been dedicated to information security. The most interesting are those, at my opinion, of course, are those who with the approach in the topic of game theory, but not only game theory, or the whole mathematics could be applied to solve a lot of interesting problems. In the last few months, I have started working intensively, of course, with my colleagues and a few students of mine to solve some problems in the field of asymmetric information in cybersecurity, but it is not easy to construct and to develop some new techniques and approach, but I hope that we will get soon very, very important results in that topic. Because I have my students now, and it is very complicated for me to speak because they have very, very important exams today. I just want to greet you all again and to wish you all luck this day to have a good time at this seminar, and I promise that I will write some interesting paper and to send you all just to see what I would like to say soon about these interesting topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miljan. I hope your students will get today good grades and that you're going to be in good mood despite of the rain in Belgrade. And without any further ado, I would like to present Gordon Akrap, as I said, director of the Institute of Hybrid Warfare, and Gordon and our main partner in Croatia. And please, Gordon, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Darko. Thank you very much for inviting us to join us here. I would like to stick to these 10 minutes that you gave us. Please, would you like to call Darko's wife to tell him that he gave me the authority to share the presentation briefly?
I think Darko's wife is with us.
Okay.
Darko, yes, now you get, I think.
No, I cannot yet. No, okay.
But you have option to share presentation. Just go.
Yes, but it's host disable participant screen sharing. So see, he disabled it, but never mind.
Yeah, let's call Darko right away.
But in any case, I'm going to start to speak. And as soon as he is going to give me authority, I will continue with the presentation. But in any
Yes.
case, I will be able to. No, he did not share the presentation. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to say a few words about the cyber warfare in the context of the modern and emerging security challenges. By what we are thinking here, how to define the cyber world.
I'm sorry, Gordon, can you send the request for presentation? You have option. Just send the request and then you will be approved. I'm sorry.
No, I share screen is how disabled.
Okay, sorry, we'll fix this technical.
Just a second. Ah, okay. Just a second. What is going on here? It's not mine. This is Darko is doing something, or? Okay. Darko, you are making jokes with me. Not you, Darko Trifuno, is Darko Bradovic. Okay. Cyber world we defined and decided to have it to use these four layers of the activities. First layer is the physical infrastructure of that is divided by the territorial distribution. Second one is the logical network, so the systems how the network communicate within. Third layer are the humans, but our personal and physical and cyber personalities. And fourth one is the layer of the artificial intelligence. By our experience for quite a long time here spending in intelligence and security, the human factor layer is the most important thing in the cyber world. By the pro and contra. For example, humans are the strongest factor in any case, and also can be the weakest factor what we were able to see in the dozens of cases of the cyber espionage, cyber criminal, cyber terrorist activities. During the cyber warfare and cyber activities in the cyberspace are one of the parts of the key parts of the hybrid warfare or hybrid threats activities. It was very easy to understand if we connect that with the book Unrestricted Warfare that was written in 1999 by the two Chinese strategists, Lieutenant Colonels Liang and Xiang Hui. That this book was not published officially, but the Americans steal it and translate it and published by the FBI somewhere in 1999. 20, and there is one sentence inside that perfectly describes what is a hybrid warfare and how to treat the cyber activities and cyber world within it. They wrote in page 25 that everything that can benefit mankind can also harm him. This is to say that there is nothing in the world today that cannot become a weapon. In other words, when you are reading between the lines, it means that everything can become a weapon, and therefore cyberspace and cyber opportunities is one of the basic pillars of the positive development of any society, and the state are also one of the weakest points of it. In any case, when we are developing our activities and our life in cyber, we have to depend and we have to decide to protect it as much as we can in order to have the better societies. Why is the cyberspace important for us? Because it's a key factor for positive development of any society and the state. And based off the analysis of conflicts and wars in last several decades, we can conclude that the primary domain that will be used for conducting any kind of conflicts and attacks are going to be cyber domain. This is not just for the future, this is present and this is reality in last dozens of years. Primary method of imposing attackers' will against target audiences are going to be influence operations. It's not anything new, it's just a system that we know that is from the beginning of the human conflicts and wars, that the main goal of any conflict and war is to trying to find a way how to impose your own will as attackers will to the attacked target audience. Nevertheless, is it a personal, is it a group, is it a society, or is it a state? Then primary goal is influence at cognitive and decision-making process of target audiences, because if you can influence those kind of things, then you get the point what you are doing, because the target audience is going to do whatever you are expecting that they are going to do in order to make decisions. Nevertheless, are they going to harm them or they are going to support them, their activities? one or more sectors of critical infrastructure are targets of attacks that will come or from cyber domain or from physical activities in order to support primary modus operandi. Therefore, it means that the critical infrastructure that we are depending more and more during our everyday life is going to be one of the primary targets that are going to be conducted and used by the possibilities of attacks via the cyberspace. And primary sector of critical infrastructure that will be under attack is one or ones that are understood or treated as the easiest cause of the negative cascade effect. That means if the attacker is going to understand that, for example, energy or food or social or financial sector is weak and have quite a lot of cyber holes and cyber problems, they are going to be attacked using the cyber opportunities from the cyberspace, and then the domino negative cascade effect is going to do the rest. And also what is important to mention is that we can divide two kinds of critical infrastructure sectors. Nevertheless, that different countries, different governments has different number of sectors, but we can share them in two basic groups, non-material and material sectors. One of the most important sectors of critical infrastructure is this non-material, and it's connected with questions of identity, questions of system of values, beliefs, and principles that if you lost it, then you are in a deep problems. And this kind of sector, this group of sectors are attacked by influence operations, as I said. Influence operations are nothing new. We know that for a quite long time. Excuse me. And they are defined. I'm using the definition by the United States from the 2009 by the RAND Corporation that influence operations are coordinated, integrated, and synchronized application on national diplomacy, information, military, economic sources, and other capabilities in peacetime, crisis, conflict, and post-conflicts to foster attitudes, behaviors, or decisions by the foreign target audiences that further U.S. interests and objectives. Of course, this is a U.S. External information operations or influence operations, this definition. But in any case, we have to know that influence operations are conducted 24/7, 365 days per year. And that's it. Nobody can assure me that this is not wrong, because during any time of during the peacetime, during the pre-conflict time, conflict time, war, post-war, and reconciliation time, influence operations need to be conducted in order to try to control these activities. And one of the key symbols and key activities that you can discover and notice as early warning signals of these activities are the activities of the intelligence community. So how we are going to be able to fight those kind of activities? First, rules of classical engagement exist. Rules of information and media operations and media warfare does not exist. Rules, especially of the cyber warfare, does not exist. And that means that everything is allowed by this legal activities to those who are using those kind of things as those vectors of attack against different target audiences. And that's the question, how we can defend ourselves against the attacker to whom everything is allowed. Because cyberspace can be used for fast, simple, and easy to conduct influence operations. Spreading the disinformation using the benefits of social networks that become information, more and more media of spreading information, not anymore social networks. And mobile communication platforms like WhatsApp, Viber, Telegram, and the others is so simple and easy like never before. And so influence is connected, the level of influence is connected with the level of fast spreading the informations. This information also can be distributed and hidden, and the real author with covered intentions quite easily, because in 5-6 iterations, it's very hard, or it's almost impossible to discover and to detect who was the primary source of these informations. And especially what is important and what was possible to see in last decades of different referendums and elections, that influence to elections and political process can be very, very significant. And if you are able to influence the political process on the referendums and elections, this is the ultimate goal that you can achieve, and in order to impose your own will to the target audiences. Therefore, what we have to do? First, any society in the states, including the groups, private sector, industrial sector, needs to identify their own weaknesses on national and international level. They have to be written and describe classical and hybrid risk threats analysis. Definition and monitoring of the early warning signals, such as increased activities of intelligence activities of present and potential adversary, direct or proxy warfare activities. One of the most important things are whole of government and whole of society approach, because in modern and emerging security challenges, it's not going to be possible anymore to tackle just on a security and intelligence structures. National and international cooperation in each area and domain is something that is condition sine qua non. It has to be done because nobody can win wars anymore alone. That's the ultimate fact. It was proven in the last 20 years, and it's going to be more and more fact for the future. Also, the societies and the states need to develop two different things, two different abilities. First is crisis management and strategic communication activities. Without those kind of things, there is not going to be possible to run and conduct and to manage any crisis in the future. You can do it if you have a good crisis management, but if you don't have if you have a lack of the strategic communication abilities, then you are going to lose yourself in a communication mess. Second thing is increasing education, motivation, and information and training the populations, because in the whole of the society approach, population needs to have one of the basic activities. It has to be one of the key pillars of this defending system. What is also important is to organize the full protection of malicious influence to elections and other similar activities like referendums, local polls, etc. Defining the rules on international level, of course, of conducting the information and cyber and influence operations. And as we started to do it in European Union from the December 2020 by the Berlin Declaration of the Digital Society, we need to develop, especially we in European Union, to develop the data and digital sovereignty in accordance with the rule of law and human freedoms and societies and democracy of the European Union. I think that we don't need to develop any data and digital sovereignty according to the Russia or United States that is a little bit closer. As I said, cyberspace is one of the key domains for national and international hybrid resilience against modern and emerging security challenges, because it's not anymore a question, are we going to be hit again with any crisis? It's just a question how we are going to survive it. Are we going to be able to conduct the resilience activities, and are we going to be able to recover for those threats? Thank you very much. I'm sorry because I was not able to share the presentation with you, but in any case, I will give it to Darko, and if anybody would like to have it, you can have it. Thank you very much, and I will stay here for questions and comments if it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. It was very theoretical things, and thanks it's good things that we have Colonel Shaul Shai with us. I will start my presentation exactly what's happened a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, in Belgrade. Colonel Shaul Shai and myself, we participate to one international conference here in Belgrade, and topic of the conference was Arab Spring. So I was very shocked. I was very surprised that the organizer, they did not know, for example, that one of the, let's say, first visible hybrid operation and hybrid war actually was organized here in Belgrade. The target was Arabic countries and overthrowing regime in this kind of the states. So I was very surprised that the organizer in Belgrade, they invite one of professor from Faculty of Political Science from University of Belgrade, that he actually participated directly in Arab Spring together with members of American intelligence. It was from retired colonels from US intelligence. They organized, and also one journal, very well-known journal, Foreign Affairs. They describe how one student, Muhammad from Egypt, came to Belgrade, how he was trained and in some kind of the special studies, the Faculty of Political Science. This topic of these special studies was resilience without violence. So we know what's exactly happened in Arabic world. We know that Twitter, Facebook, and all other things were used in that. And 5-6 years later, we have here in Serbia, we have a Russian hybrid operation when one or more intelligence from the same country, they participate, they organize blog portals without impressum. They try to change opinion, they try to influence in our society. As we know very well that Russian plan for Europe, they want to govern Europe in undivided Europe. So their goal is to divide Europe, to divide target countries' opinion, because when you divide one, for example, targeted state using cyber and all other means, then you can easily manipulate, you can easily govern the targeted state. So on the end of the day, of course, they want to achieve their own goals. The same things it's with other let's say major powers, and the most problem for specialists and for experts in the same time academicians and practitioners from the field of cybersecurity, the most big problem is that they did not understand the threat, they did not understand the gravity of the threat, and they did not know how to, let's say, respond on internal and external risks. What really surprised most of us, and I think Dr. Akrap will agree, most of security experts, they will not know to answer to one simple question. And we are, it is shock news that most of our colleagues dealing with intelligence, counterintelligence, security, counterterrorism, they do not know what is security, which kind of the science is security. And then it creates further problems. They don't understand that security is the science with the theory that it's based on, with the special methodology, that security as a science is using all methods of social science. But what is methodology that divide security science from all other sciences? It's basically all these methods. We're talking about 4 major methods. They all come from natural science, mostly from mathematics and other things. So without knowing to use these special methods of security science, you cannot create security risk assessment. So you cannot respond appropriately to the threat. And most of our experts, it's my own maybe wrong or right personal experience, their knowledge is based on Barry Boesen school on theory of securitization. That means that you give politicians right and authorities to decide what phenomena is danger and what phenomena is risk for internal or external danger or risk, and what actually jeopardize national or international security. And this is very wrong. Sometimes they are doing good things. They really find out what is the threat. But if you exclude science, if you don't give a chance to science to prove what is a threat, external and internal, then you have troubles. So in many developed countries, they know, but these kind of things, Barry Boesen school, I'm not here to criticize his school because he's not here with us, obviously. But if you don't give chance professionals, if you give chance to, if you allowing politicians or political science experts to decide and to mix their knowledge with security science experts, then in mixture, sometimes you get very, very wrong results. So we think we are elaborating and we understand and we assess that in security, cyber security courses that we would like to organize with our partners from Faculty of Mathematics. Why we chose Faculty of Mathematics? Because Faculty of Mathematics of University of Belgrade is the leading institutions in mathematics, but also in information technology, etc. And we allocate 7 important and main parts of the possible future program of security science. So the first subject that it should be examined and elaborate is security and cyber security. I will come back to that just when I list all these 7. So second is cyber attacks and techniques. Third one, cyber defense techniques and secure communication. Fourth, it's security and information engineering system. 5th is cyber security management. 6th, cyber or IT forensics. And 7, risk analysis and cyber security. So maybe there will be some more proposals for the subject that they need to be learn or teach during this course. But the bottom line, how we start with whole idea is we ask all, because in today the common opinion that security expert, cyber security expert is someone coming from IT, which is very wrong. Why it's wrong? First of all, IT experts, they don't understand the threat. They don't know what is security, and they don't know definitions and what to learn. Just to respond on cyber attack by another cyber attack, you failed in a category of maybe national or international criminals. What we understand, most of experts on cyber security from IT, they first of all, they don't know the legal ground. They don't know procedures and everything. And the first questions which occur, what you do in case of cyber attack, and how you recognize what is a cyber attack. So what is the difference between those attacks? Are they cyber terrorism, cyber coup d'etat as Arab Spring, or what Russian intelligence doing today in Europe using in hybrid warfare and this Malik influence, what are actually executing all around Europe, cyber crimes as crimes as it is, and actually which kind of the crimes and definitions of each crimes are we can see and its presence on a cyber field. So my first questions to our colleagues from IT is, let's say, what is the cyber terrorism? And they did not know. What is a cyber coup d'etat by definition? They did not know. They know how to program. They know how to maybe do this software part of the things, but it is not good enough, particularly when we come to intelligence, counterintelligence, and of course security field. That's why we understand that this is very important, that we all elaborate here, that we gather all on one place security science experts, of course, intelligence, which contains intelligence, counterintelligence, national, international security, counterterrorism experts, etc., together with our colleagues from IT field, together with our colleagues from different other fields, to understand the gravity of the threat and to understand how actually we institutionally can respond on the external or external threat. So I am very thankful to all those interesting, and I think we will widen this discussion and I hope this fruitful, that it will be very fruitful to hear all other opinions. So that is a few things and few, let's say, highlights that I would like to draw to your attention. And without any further ado, I would like to call next speaker on our list. It's Colonel Charles Shai. He was one of the important member of Institute of National International Security and research fellow of Institute. And of course, Colonel Charles Shai contribute to most of our activities. Colonel Shai, floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Darko, for the invitation and the introduction. Since I have 10 minutes, I try to cover in this short time one of the angles that is less popular in discussion among security experts. My assumption is that all the countries in one or another level of efficiency are protecting themselves regarding the security agencies, armed forces, what they define as critical infrastructure. And this level is, on one hand, relatively is covered. And of course, the data about it is classified, so it's not open to discussion. I would like to relate to another aspect that I can find some similarities between the cyber threat and terrorism. When we look, at least from the Israeli experience, most of the terror attacks are not against the armed forces or critical infrastructure. Most of the attacks are against civilian or economic targets, what we used to call on the tactical level. when we look at the threats that the cyberspace constitutes, it's on all levels, from the individual to the national level and to the international level that Darko just mentioned before. And we have to take in consideration that it's not enough to protect the critical infrastructure that always will lack in the boundaries of this definition, because you cannot include under this umbrella, which is well protected by the state, all the institutes that are really critical, and many of them remain out of this definition. Not speaking about economical infrastructure, that it's very easy for the cyber attacker, and I will relate pretty soon to define who are the sources of the threat. They can paralyze the country, at least the economic system and many of the services, without dealing with the tougher challenge of critical infrastructure. So we have to take in consideration that today, when we speak about cyberspace, on the personal level, it's part of our daily life, starting with the information, and this Zoom conference that we do, it's part of this cyberspace, navigation to move from one point to another. I think that all around the world, we use navigation software, cell phones, and even some of us have a chip implanted in the body for medical purposes. So we are part, whether we like it or not, from this cyberspace. And therefore, when we look at the map, we can say, let's say in general terms, that every minute we are exposed to cyber attacks on different levels, different scales, and so on. Israel, of course, is not exception. And the cyber threat is the daily war that all the countries that don't have to deal with real wars are exposed like others. So when we look at the different countries, and I would like now to turn to the country level, the technologically developed countries that make extensive use of computer systems are more exposed to the cyber threats than countries that are less developed. More than it, when we used to use the term asymmetric warfare, it exists not only in the kinetic war, but as well when we speak about cyberspace. I mean, a small terror organization, let's take, for example, Hamas in the Israeli experience, can try to challenge the state of Israel and beyond. Not speaking about groups of hackers or even individuals that can damage a country-level system. So this is one of the threats that each country has to deal with. And the starting point is that the civil and the economic systems do not enjoy the same level of protection against cyber attacks like the critical infrastructure, or let's say security services on the national level. And the question is, what can be done in order to cover this area, which is huge one, almost endless, with tough questions. What are the boundaries of the responsibility of the state to protect from the individual to the different components of economic and civilian theater. Now I would like to share with you in the next 5 minutes that I have, again, an Israeli experience regarding this question. In Israel, and I'm not going now because time is short, to go and to analyze the definition of the cyberspace. But one point that I would like to highlight is that in the Israeli perception, we used to include the end user, no matter what type is this end user, as a part of the system. And then if we try to find out how to try to provide a kind of umbrella that will protect this huge area that is more exposed to cyber attacks than the governmental ones, the answer is a cyber defense doctrine. And the state of Israel, and in our organization, we have the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, which is under the Prime Minister office, and they are in charge to coordinate between all the organizations that are involved in cyber defense. So this unit published in June 2021 a document called Cyber Defense Doctrine: Managing the Risk, a fully applied guide to organizational cyber defense. And this document was published as a service to the public for the purpose of promoting cyber defense in the Israeli economy. Now, of course, it cannot be a type of tailor-made program how to protect each firm or organization and so on. But it's necessary to provide the users with a concept, and this is the reason that it's called a doctrine. I mean, usually we use doctrine when we speak about military issues and less regarding this type of projects. But the idea is to deliver to the potential users a toolbox how to try to deal with the challenge. Of course, it's not instead of cyber experts that should advise directly each organization how to translate the doctrine to the specific way that is relevant to the specific user. But the idea is that there is a general concept that all those who are under the threat of cyber attack on one hand and want to do the best they can in order to avoid cyber attacks, how to deal with it. Now, of course, the time is short to present the whole doctrine. I would like just to highlight 2 or 3 main points from the doctrine. The first point is, of course, to identify the risks to the specific organization. What should be the critical points of the organization in case that it will be attacked by a cyber attack? Of course, again, it's not so simple because the question is what kind of attack, how intensive is it? Is it a part of a wider attack or it's a specific against one organization? Of course, I cannot go now into this type of questions. But first of all, the directors of the organization has to be aware what are their sensitivities, what is the soft belly of their organization, with the idea that they have to maintain the service. They have to create continuity in spite of the fact that the organization will come under cyber attack. In order to do it, we have to look at what we used to call intelligence. Of course, intelligence regarding the cyber threat cannot be done by each organization independently. This is a kind of service that the country has to provide. But the organization has to be aware to the different types of threats that they will have to respond. The second step is preventive steps that should be done in advance. Of course, again, you cannot cover all the options and find the solutions. I wish it could be done, but it's impossible. But at least regarding the specific threats, what are the main preventive steps that can be taken in advance? And the third step is, of course, from the moment that the organization came under attack, how to respond, and what is not less important, how can it be recovered as fast as possible? Because at the end, the failure or the victory in this battle is the capability of the attacked entity to return to normal. And again, here, the responsibility is shared between the organization itself and, of course, the state that has to support it to overcome the problem or the crisis. I think that, of course, there are many organizations, for instance, banks, that are well protected with minimum involvement of the state. They are strong enough to take care about their capability to maintain their services. But let's say smaller entities, I think that this idea of providing them with a kind of national doctrine how to deal with, it's a good idea. And the last point that I would like to highlight and to finish my part, because it's not limited to a specific country, like in other areas of the cyberspace, international cooperation is necessary, it's must. Because in many cases, in order to deliver on one hand the early warning, and of course to recover and to back up from one area that is not under attack, not only in the country, but outside the country, this is a part of the response that should be not only on the national level, but on the international level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shai. Mikhail, if you like, because you are in run, next on our list is Katarina, Dr. Katarina Stolarikova, but since you need to go, so Mikhail, I think Katarina can wait a little bit. Mikhail, please, floor is yours before you go.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that, Katarina.
No problem. I'm sorry I did not present you because you just, I sent the message from your side. Dr. Mikhail Storm Jensen, Major of the Royal Danish Defense Academy and Research Fellow of South Denmark University. Subject is why Denmark new offensive cyber means might not strengthen ties to the US, but instead representing new risk for entrepreneur in Denmark. So please, it is fast announcements, but the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm having the same issues with the presentation as the other statements. Anyway, what I'm here to talk about today is small states, alliances, offensive cyber, and the threat from entrapment and abandonment. And I'm sorry, Katarina, for pushing you back in line. And also, I'm not a doctor yet. I'm a PhD student, but I'm a major. First of all, the topic that I'm talking about when I'm talking about offensive cyber is the ability to conduct computer network attacks. The other part of offensive cyberspace operations, namely computer network espionage, is not a new concept, and hence not a new influencer on the relationship between states in alliances. My point of departure from an international politics perspective is Glenn H. Snyder's dilemma for small states, namely small states face the risk in alliances of being abandoned by their major security provider, but they also face the risk of being entrapped in the fights that their major security provider choose to pick or are forced into, which may not be in their best interest. When we translate this to the acquisition of military means, then for a small power, the most important thing when acquiring military means is its first order effect as a deterrence against other powers. However, for a small state like Denmark, when we acquire military means, the first order effect on our potential opponents is actually not the most important thing. The most important thing is how it affects our alliance, in our case with the United States, which means that not the first order deterrence effects are the most important, but the second order abandonment mitigation effects. Now, the case I want to make is to compare the purchase of the F-35 fighter plane with our recent acquisition as of 2019 of offensive cyber capabilities. I've listed a number of parameters which influence the relationship between Denmark and the United States. It is the reason why I've picked this case, of course, the closeness to our nation. You could also replace the United States with any major security provider and Denmark with any minor security consumer, so to speak. First parameter is interoperability. Now, the F-35 is a US system. The Danish pilots are trained in the United States. So there's perfect interoperability, which is, of course, not just benefit to the United States. Hence, it should reduce the risk of abandonment. The next parameter is economy of scale. Again, the more F-35s we buy in Denmark, the more are produced in the United States, providing jobs and what have you, and also reducing the development costs per aircraft, hence reducing the cost of the United States of building up their own force of F-35s. Again, this should be a benefit to them, and it should reduce, in theory, the risk of abandonment for Denmark. Another parameter is the capabilities ability to strengthen NATO capabilities in case of armed conflict. And again, the F-35 is a very tangible capability. Everybody knows what F-35 can do. Its addition to the NATO forces is obvious, and again, it should reduce the risk of abandonment. Since 1991, Denmark has participated in a number of wars, siding with the US, both under the auspices of the United Nations or in coalitions with willing. We have tried to achieve a number of external policy objectives. One of them has definitely been to strengthen the alliance with the United States. In other words, to gain prestige. We've done this by participating, for instance, in Afghanistan with few or no caveats whatsoever, as opposed to a number of other US allies, hence probably gaining some extra prestige on that account. The F-35 again provides opportunity for doing the same, say, for instance, in potential operations in Syria against Islamic State. However, there's a caveat. If the US should request our services in operations that would entail the risk of entrapment or high risk of entrapment, for instance, in very prerogative operations against Russia in the Arctic or against China and South China Sea. Historically, the Danish government would probably find some excuse for not participating, or at least caveat the participation. A downside to the F-35 when it comes to the relationship with the United States is that since it is such a tangible and well-known quantity, it's very transparent what our purchase of 27 F-35s actually brings to the table. Denmark has been very optimistic in its assessment of of the efficacy of these aircraft, and if these assessments turn out to be too optimistic when we actually get the aircraft, NATO and the US would be in a good position to ask us to buy more to live up to the promises that we've made. As mentioned, there's some risk of entrapment. However, we have a lot of historical experience. The F-35 is not that different from the F-16. So Danish politicians will have something to work with when they try to look for a way out of an entrapment. Now, to come to the meat and potatoes of my presentation, the Danish offensive cyber capabilities. If you look at the interoperability, there's little or no interoperability. Traditionally, and I assume this is not something I've any knowledge of course, because it's classified, but I would assume that both the US and the Danish offensive cyber capabilities are strictly classified national-eyes only, which means that we don't have any insight into each other's capabilities, hence no interoperability. Also, since the Danish cyber capabilities are, of course, produced in Denmark and Danish-eyes only, there's no economy of scale provided to the United States. So those two parameters should not have any effect on the risk of abandonment, at least not a positive effect. Does it strengthen NATO capabilities? Yes, well, sort of, kind of. NATO has the framework of the SCEPRA, the special cyber effects provided voluntarily by allies for provision of offensive cyber capabilities. This is a concept that the US has supported, and Danish support for this concept, of course, provides US with some leeway in NATO. Hence, that's a political benefit and should reduce the risk of abandonment. Is there any potential for prestige through caveat-free participation in operations? Well, theoretically, yes, there are, but there's no historical experience. So it's difficult to assess the potential impact on the risk of abandonment. The US official strategy is very unclear when it comes to the role of allies, especially in offensive cyber operations below the threshold of armed conflict. As opposed to that, Danish strategies are very clear when it comes to operations above the level of armed conflict, but not below the level of armed conflict. So it seems to be sort of mismatched there. On the other hand, the transparency of the allocated resources and capability efficacy is almost zero. So at least until we are called upon to actually use some of our offensive cyber capabilities, there's no way that, I mean, we could claim, any country can claim that we have immense and very strong offensive cyber capabilities. There's no really any way to check that until the proverbial hits the fan and we are asked to actually provide them. Finally, when it comes to risk of entrapment, the difference between F-35s and the offensive cyber capabilities is that a lot of countries, as you have mentioned previously, both Mr. Akrap and Mr. Trifunovic and Colonel Shea, that a number of countries are already using offensive cyber capabilities against each other below the threshold of armed conflict. Lately, United States have been, President Biden has been very adamant. He's very unhappy with repeated Russian attacks on US infrastructure. He's very unhappy with Chinese infringement on intellectual property and what have you. And he has requested that allies support him in his struggle against those, in order to deter such attacks from, for instance, Russia and China. So it's not a great leap of the imagination to imagine that the US should actually ask its allies to also bring in support with offensive cyber capabilities if they want to deter China and Russia by punishment, which is an integrated part of their national cyber strategy. In this case, that would leave Denmark with a very unhappy choice. We would either have the choice of on the request of the United States to conduct offensive cyber operations against China or Russia, which would leave us in a very unpleasant situation and leave us very open for counterattacks. Russia has already demonstrated with the use of NotPetya that cost the Danish company Maersk $300 million in 2017, that they don't hesitate to strike back with such unfair means. Or we could say no to the United States, which would leave us in risk of being abandoned on a later occasion. So, to conclude, what I've done here is to compare a conventional military capability with offensive cyber capabilities, and my analysis based on the Snyder theory is that it's not same but different. It is very different indeed. Offensive cyber arguably increases small states' risk of entrapment and at least face some obstacles in order to reduce the risk of abandonment. There's of course a caveat to this analysis. This analysis does not take any other potential advantages of offensive cyber means acquisition into consideration. There could be a number of such potentially beneficial effects, but they have not been included in the analysis. That should be 5 minutes. Are there any questions?
Is there any questions to Jensen before he go? Or we can leave the questions for the end.
Thank you very much. I wish you all a very good conference and thank you for having me.
Mr. Jensen, Major Jensen, thank you so much for your participation, and we are looking forward to see your article. Before I forget, I would like to invite all presenters to submit an article to Security Science Journal before I think we announce we have some before, I don't know, November, November, or we don't know what was the deadline. We'll announce deadline, I don't remember now. But Professor Zoltan Rajnai, he will be guest editor of the special issue on cyber security. So we invite all, of course, all our presenters to submit the articles for review, and we're going to publish this before in the last issue of this year. It will be end of December, so maybe I think the deadline will be end of November to submit your articles for publishing. So once again, thank you so much, sir. And we will going to our next distinguished speaker, our lady, Dr. Katarina Stolarikova from the Institute of National International Security, but it is by mistake written Serbia, it's Slovakia, and also for Colonel Shaulshai, it was Israel. So sorry for our mistake. So Dr. Stolarikova, floor is yours.
No problem, Darko. I'm half Serbian for now. So good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues.
Akrap is smiling. He wants to take away from. You see the Akrap smile. See the Gordon Akrap smile.
And third Croatian too.
No, you can talk.
We will see. We will see when you are going to come to Croatia to coast.
All right.
We have our escort. Don't worry.
So again, good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear friends. I also would like to greet all the new colleagues, and I really hope that we will stay in touch in some platform and we can share our findings and our data in the field of cybersecurity in the future. So I hope we can manage to create some platform of communication for us. And I'm afraid that I won't have enough time to present all my findings and all the outcomes from my research. So those who are interested in my findings, please do not hesitate to contact me so I can share the data and the charts and tables and everything with you. So as also Darko said previously, there's a big lack of definitions in cybersecurity field. And as we all know that the use of innovative technologies and tools is an essential part of warfare, evidenced by the increasing deployment and more diverse uses in recent years, in recent maybe 10 or more years. The extent of the damage and the effect of the attack predominantly depend on the intention of the attacker. So, and there is also a struggle in the terminology between Russian and Western experts, because Western terminology prefers to use cybersecurity because they speak also are mainly about computers, networks, hackings, and Russian experts prefers the term information security because they speak more about information and information security, protection of the information and data. I would like to present my research of malware and APT, or advanced persistent threat. I will explain later these terms. So the aim of my research was to analyze military cyber operations and their tools, and the outcomes of this analysis of cyber operations selected malware, and I did also case study of Ukraine during the Ukraine crisis, the armed conflict there. Consistent terms and definitions, a verified relationship of malware to the operational environment, and proven patterns of malware behavior. So my main motives were to propose this terminology, which is lacking the definitions, and also to propose some interdisciplinary interconnection of technical and human sciences in order to explain these cybersecurity issues, and also to distinguish cyber military arsenal from common malware, which is cyber criminal arsenal, on the basis of specific elements and features, but also the relation to the operational environment. And last but not least was to characterize cyber attack and cyber espionage malware in terms of how they are deployed, how they act, and how they persist, and how long. So I set these research problems and goals, and I claimed that a targeted cyber attack, which is territorially defined and violates the security and interests of the country, is not an accidental cybercrime, but the result of the use of cyber weapons. The area affected by cyber attack and military cyber espionage is an operational environment. Also, the analysis of the malware behavior during this, the individual stages of its persistence and operation in the information system, as well as the bait documents of the malware, is a key source of information for operations in the field of cybersecurity. And also the effective protection of cybersecurity and resolution of the cyber incidents can be achieved through this correct identification of the malware and analysis of its behavioral patterns. Today, we know that we see that this cyber espionage is much more comfortable and more efficient because espionage today uses computers that are much more time and risk efficient in stealing information. Furthermore, information or any virtual data can be copied countless times without losing quality, and nobody can notice that you stole it. And the advantage of cyber espionage is that the information is not stolen but copied, so it usually remains undetected for a long time. And in any operational environment, especially if it's unstable and depends on dynamic political decisions, like was the case of Ukraine recently, the incidence of espionage activities is usually higher. And this espionage generally focuses on area with a tense situation, political and armed conflict. Another trick of these cyber espionage tools is that they have fake digital footprints, so they can hide the true origin of the attacker and the tools, because these digital footprints can be manipulated, as well as time zones and language of the attacker. If any computer is accessible from the internet, it is possible to gain complete control over it and run any command without the user's knowledge. For example, such a command may start recording video or audio, even though the device microphone is or camera appears to be inactive, or even the device is turned off. The other case was the case of Stuxnet, which attacked computers or devices which were not connected to internet, but through other devices like USB flash. To briefly explain what is advanced persistent threat, it's coherent and covert persistent attack against specific organization or entity. This attack does not include isolated, speculative, or opportunistic cyber incident, which form a large part of cybercrime. In contrast, these APT attacks are usually carried out at the governmental level and use highly sophisticated malware, which is also very expensive and very time demanding to breach the entity's security defense. So these are very specific cases of targeted attacks. And each of these targeted attack and APT contain a sequence of typical stages. So we can detect them through various stages. In the vast majority of cases, they also use standard techniques. Their uniqueness is that they don't use unusual modules, but they use very efficient arrangement of typical components to achieve their goal. And the process of this APT attack also includes a period during which an attacker identifies vulnerabilities and assesses security checks on target systems to gain trusted access to and extract privileged information without suspicions. This is the reason why some of these APT attacks ran for years before their direct operation on the system. These APTs are not as widespread as conventional malware because their implementation requires a high degree of discretion, more effort and expertise, and of course, much more money. The goal of the attacker is to gain covert access to information, secret control of the system, and stay within the framework, the network for as long as possible. I also try to propose some definitions, so to introduce them. The basic framework difference between cybercrime and cyber attack is that I said that cybercrime is a criminal activity committed mostly by anonymous individuals or groups for the purpose of illegal enrichment, extortion, or harm, while the activities of cyber troops or cyber units, I mean the military ones, are conducted at the state level and include protection of people, state, and strategic objectives such as critical infrastructure objects against these cyber attacks. And they are governed by military principles and in many cases also by official documents. Another important difference I said to diverse cybercrime and cyber attack or military cyber incident, I said that it should lie in territorial delimitation. As before I was mentioning operational environment. So this is the territorial delimitation I mean. So cybercriminal activities are generally not country specific, with the aim of attacking as many facilities or systems as possible. While the impacts and targets of cybercriminal attacks have no spatial delimitation, cyber attacks are tied to a territorial delimited area. So that's why I said the definition for the cybercrime, that cybercrime is any harmful activity of individuals or groups that disrupts the normal operation of an information system, network, computer, or other intelligent device, or the privacy of its user, and the objectives of such activity have no territorial boundaries or military motivation. On the other side, cyber espionage is the acquisition of classified and sensitive information, tracking of persons and objects using virtual tools and techniques without the knowledge and consent of the information carrier. On the other hand, to the cybercrime, there is a cyber attack, which is a politically or militarily motivated and controlled activity conducted at the level of states where actors achieve their interests and political goals by using virtual tools. It is an act of violating the security or integrity of a country or a region through cyber weapons. And to follow, the cyber weapon is an offensive tool of a virtual nature, usually a code, a program, or a software that is purposefully used to forcibly achieve a military goal. And the last definition I put for cyber troops or cyber units. So cyber troop is a unit or a department within the military structure of a given country, which is focused on breaking through and ensuring cyber protection, cyber espionage, and the development of cyber weapons. Their agenda also includes the protection of the state's population and strategic goals against computer attacks. Also, I focused, my research dealt with the different impacts of cyber attacks, cyber espionage, and cybercrime on the security situation of a country or region. This is still the first part. How many minutes do I have left, Darko, please?
5 more, please.
5 more. Okay, so I will skip these more definitions to the second part, where I looked on APTs. These are advanced persistent threat malwares, which are much more complex and more difficult. And I analyzed them to find their predictable behavior and their common patterns, because I believe that early identification of the malware can significantly mitigate its effects and the stage when it's detected. So I did the analysis of the method of penetration of the malware, including also possible bait elements, because they reveals a lot of information about their intended goals and the targets and the intentions of the malware. So the way which attackers use the system is much more informative, because in the case of cyber attacks and cyber espionage, the composition of target is non-random. So if the attacker is to hit his target group and not attract attention at the wrong time, he must carefully plan the attack and select the methods of penetration into the system, and that are most effective for the operation. And the choice of the tools, also the choice of the methods of penetration or infection the system, is also very crucial to prepare this attack. And also, okay, I will skip to the different stages of the malware. So each targeted attack begins with a reconnaissance, in which an attacker obtains information about his target. For example, this is the information about key employees who have access to valuable data, or what type of emails can be attractive for them, or the what is the IT infrastructure of the targeted object. So after this preparatory step, the technical stages of the attack are launched. So the attacker must gain access to the code implementation, which he usually uses exploits for this stage. The strategies for spreading malicious code in the target system can vary greatly. Some attackers aim to infect as many devices in the system as possible, but others try to limit this activity of this APT only to the necessary devices, which can significantly reduce the risk of the detection. And when the attacker enters the system, he can also launch the main attack modules at this stage. And the final stage is the main target of the attack. So it is in most cases of APTs, the covered and undisclosed download of data from the target system. So to briefly summarize the stages, so we can have a list of 7 stages. So it's reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and the last is actions on objective or on the target. Also, these attackers who create this sophisticated and expensive and very difficult malware, these APTs, they also have their habits, and also they make mistakes. So this allows to initiate appropriate countermeasures at various stages of malware detection. For example, for these habits and flows to be recognizable, awareness of such attacks must be high, and organizations must have the necessary detection and analysis capabilities. Preventive measures are often not enough to combat such threat. Therefore, it is necessary to support detection capabilities and security teams that need time and resources to look for unusual behavior in the system. So, for example, asset company makes their own proactive detection systems. And analysis of the stages of these advanced malware or APTs has shown that there are certain standard procedures for implementing cyber attack or cyber espionage. So it is a good start to detect them. Early detection of such an attack can significantly also mitigate its effects and other damage. But when the attack is detected at the stage where it's already affecting the object, it means that it's already very late, and the security of information should be reconsidered. And also I analyzed the deployment time of these APTs, as I also mentioned that it takes years, the operation of these APTs. The whole process of creating a thorough and effective targeted attack on the information system is not only time consuming, but also financially demanding. So it's expensive, as I said before. The persistence of malware or APT therefore has an penetration into the system through zero theft of access. It must be used very effectively, because if it fails, it's not good then. So the main reason is to achieve the goal to the greatest extent possible. This means that, for example, in the case of cyber espionage, it is a matter of the longest possible covert collection of sensitive data and classified information from the targeted object or subject. Although the influence of most malware is expressed in years, in my data charts I use for my research, that does not mean that their activity is equally intense throughout this period, because maybe the action takes only 1 or 2 years, but the preparation and the penetration phases takes much more years. So to conclude it, the analysis of the ways of infection of information system stages of malware and the period of their operation showed that the choice of harmful tools and methods of penetration is governed by certain rules. So the set of malicious code and the types of malware used depend on the intent of the attacker or the attack. Penetration methods in turn depend on the composition of targets and victims. So the sequence of steps and stages is approximately the same for all targeted attacks. That means cyber attacks and cyber espionage tools or malwares. And this requires also a long time for preparation. Although cyber attack destruction software takes advantage of the moment of surprise, and once it strikes, causes damages or erases data or destroys and damages material target, the preparatory phase, including target exploration, production, and intrusion, is a long-term process which can last for several years. This is also the difference between this and cyber attack malwares, where they hit the target, they are immediately detected. So the lifetime of the malware or its operating life after its launch is already different. Cyber espionage malware operates in the system until it's detected, as I said, and cyber attack malware is detected after hitting the target. The last thing is that this effective, I see it quite optimistic. So there can be effective defense against these targeted attacks and cyber attacks and cyber espionage malwares, but it should follow several principles. And these are that it has standardized stages and procedures. It has common patterns of behavior, so tools and techniques. and they are closely related to the intent of the malware. And also we can count with the mistakes and habits that occur even in the most experienced attackers, and early detection, which is really key to mitigate the extent of the damage. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have questions, we can
Thank you
put
so
them.
much. Next on our list is Dr. Lourdes Ruiz from Obuda University. Subject is digital education, security issue, and solution. Dr. Ruiz, floor is yours, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Can I share the screen or not?
Yes, you can.
All right. It says host disabled participant screen share. Okay, so
send request for the enabling.
oh, okay. Now I got it. Share. Can you see my presentation?
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about digital education, security challenges, and best practices. This report, we did it with Dr. Dai. First, I'm going to talk about the digital education that spread quickly because of the COVID-19 outbreak and shifted traditional learning to homeschooling. Digital education provides high quality and more flexible education experience compared to the traditional education environment, which is a strict schedule and the necessity to be in a physical classroom. It also contributes to an effective tool for joint, creative, and more personalized learning. And also the technologies can integrate real world problems into educational programs. Digital education offers teachers and students a wide array of feedback, reflection, review opportunities. It also constructs communities that are attracted to learn, which people can share their same learning necessities or also knowledge experiences. And also it provides new opportunities for teachers to their professional development and a local and a global level. But although all of these potentials, it also presents risks during implementation, deployment, and usage. So this presentation is going to describe and enumerate the security challenges and also provide some countermeasures. First, I'm going to start with the platform security issues. In Moodle, it is the brute force attack, the hijacking attack, attacks related to authentication, to ability, to confidentiality, and integrity of data. In Zoom, Zoom bombing, end-to-end encryption, MAC spying, Windows remote code encryption. There's also security holes that can let hackers read and steal the user's data. In Blackboard platform, there is a cross-site request for forgery, cross-site scripting attacks, and authorization vulnerabilities. And in the ADX platform, there is the cross-site scripting, password phishing, server-side code execution, and RDX data identification. The external cyber attacks, the first one are the malicious attacks, which are computers, viruses, malware, Trojan. These attacks, they damage the operating systems without the user's permission through the attached files in the email or the advertisements. Also, students and instructors download resources and they use their own devices. And also the social media, it is a risk which hinders the security of the system. The availability attack, they interrupt the connectivity or limit the bandwidth of the systems. The denial of service attacks increased these years in 2019 and 2020 in the e-learning platforms. The The first attack is the Zoom, and followed by the Moodle. External cyber attacks, they can be in three groups: confidentiality attack, integrity attack, and authentication attack. And there are a lot of examples of that. In the confidentiality, there can be insecurity cryptographic storage, insecurity direct reference, information leakage, and improper error handling. In the integrity, there are the cross-site attacks, injection flows, malicious file execution. And in the authentication, there can be like a broken authentication on the session management and insecure communication. Also, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the countermeasures. The first one is cryptography, which is a technique that protects data regarding confidentiality, integrity, and authentication. Another solution is the digital right management, which comprises laws, standards, and practices to support sharing or reuse of learning resources. There's also a distributed firewall, which protects the system against internal or external attacks and diminish the points of failure, secure remote and user machine, and safeguard hosts. Also, biometric authentication, which enhances security and help users to avoid the password misusage. And digital watermarking, which allows users to put a hidden copyright notes in the audio, in the videos, or in images. The countermeasures in cyber attacks, we can say the security protocol, the instruction detection system, firewalls, cryptography mechanisms, CAPTCHA, and SSL, these to avoid the brute force attacks and secure sessions. Also, biometric multifunction to authenticate students when logging in the platforms. Digital education and the platforms are cloud-based. It's a cloud-based environment. So some of the solutions can be SMS information security, also biometrics, token security, access to a control list, digital signature, also cryptography, SOA-based architecture in platforms, and also a blockchain, which is a promising method for protecting the documents from fraud and security problems, which create a complete system for managing educational achievements. And finally, in order to have a proactive approach against cyber threats, it's important to execute a security managed model, which consists of 4 steps, which are plan, implement, maintain, and evaluate in a cycle where all of these, they need to be together. And the conclusions are first, education had to quickly adapt to the pandemic, but also students and teachers, they need to possess the digital literacy to face digital education challenges. Also, digital education needs to provide an equal learning opportunity for students such as with disabilities or people in developing countries where the internet connection is not reliable and electronic devices are scarce. Also, because of the rapid growth of digital education, it is important, it is a significant concern, security. And cryptography is the best technique to protect confidentiality, integrity, and authentication of data, but it is not strong enough. It is recommended to combine these methods with other methods and with various levels of security. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
I think we shall leave the questions for the, I think, end of all presentation. Of course, if anyone want to raise right now question, the floor is open, but I think it's better when we finish all that we can then open the floor.
Oh, okay, and then thank you so much.
So thank you, Ruiz. Next on our list is PhD student Bautista Penanta, Cesar Mikhail, if I pronounce well, from Obuda University. Subject is safety, analysis, and automotive perception. Mr. Bautista, Michael, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I think that you can hear me. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So first, I would like to share my presentation, but I don't know if I can.
Yes, you can. You just request your presentation. There is place, and then.
Okay, I'm sharing. You can see my presentation. You can see my presentation now.
Not yet. There is some presentation, and we don't know whether it's yours.
That's from the previous speaker from Lourdes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she must be stop her presentation first.
Lourdes Ruiz should stop sharing her screen, and then Cesar is going to be able to do it, I think.
Okay, I'm doing this right now. Okay. Wait.
There should be a button, stop sharing.
Yeah. It is not maximizing these. That's why I cannot.
Sorry if I turn on my camera because it's I don't know if it's the internet or something, but it's lagging. So without camera, I can speak fine, better.
So what is going on? Can we remove this presentation from Technics? Darko Obradovic, can you remove this previous presentation? Something is going on. Yep, right now.
Yeah. So, okay, I try to share.
So, Cesar, can we see you? Oh, yes. Yes, we have your presentation.
So
go ahead, please.
Now we are ready. Okay, thank you so much. So my topic is, as you said, is safety analysis in automotive perception. First of
Cesar,
all,
I'm sorry. You need to speak
okay,
louder or bring the microphone closer. We don't hear you well.
Okay, so now you can hear me better?
Yes, a little bit better, but come closer to microphone, please.
Okay, give me a minute. So that is better?
Yes, now it's better. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. First of all, I would like to say my line of research is not directly like a cybersecurity thing. I'm most part of the, I don't know, like a algorithm of automotive perception for the self-driving cars. I think it's, but this part of, because, you know, the cybersecurity is part of a self-driving car because it's like all the information that you have in the automotive systems go to the cloud, and there is the thing. So, okay, let me ready. Let me go ahead. So a little bit introduction about self-driving robotic cars. Okay, self-driving robotic vehicles are cars or trucks in which humans drivers are never required to take control of the vehicle's safety operating. The challenge for this technology are planning and navigation of the vehicle in dynamic environments, ensuring the safety of its passenger and pedestrians, offering high road efficiency. Impressive progress has been achieved in the last decade, yet recent works on self-driving cars still present limitations in the complexity
of the environment and the speed of movement. First of all, a little bit the structure of the self-driving cars. Okay, this structure are organized in two huge systems, that is perception system and decision-making system. The perception system is in charge of digitalizing the representing of the environment that the car is operates, and decision-making is in charge of the tracing the most appropriate route in the vehicle for the vehicle. Okay, first of all, what is the perception? So is the process which the human beings receive, interpreted, and understand the signs from the environment in which they interact. This information in code with sensitive activity. Okay, these principles can be applied in algorithm generation for self-driving cars, which means that give the vehicle the ability to discretize the information and choose just the important, gain process time and storage space. Okay, the safety system in the vehicles. So before the Second World War, they established the passive safety. This started actually with a Hungarian engineer, Bela Berényi, which designed the structures capable of absorbing impact energy, called non-deformed cabins. And the active safety stage is gaining strength since 2005, based on the implementation of microelectronics and control system for vehicle stability designs capable of correcting driver's errors. So the active safety features prevent accidents from happening, but the passive safety features lessen the chance of death and serious injury in instances where an accident is unavoidable. Okay, now it's a little analysis between these kind of systems. The analysis in software. The sensor input and control the vehicle outputs are of course the critical part of technology. A vehicle needs the machine learning algorithms to have the capability of identification and reacting to objects autonomously. To train a driver system, use this algorithm requires large sets of annotated images. The choosing techniques will depends of the amount of type of data available, the knowledge about the system dynamics, and the control method to be employed since the conditions of the road and the vehicle will vary with time. Online model identification and lifelong system identification will improve the performance of autonomous vehicles. Tools from machine learning shows great potential to create models from the large amounts of data collected. Analysis between in control. So in traditional automotive control at relative low speeds, kinematic models of the car could be employed for control, giving a reference path, proportional integral derivative, control, feedback, linearization, or simple model predict can control their be used to track it. But currently, operating at high speeds or performing aggressive maneuvers requires employing the full dynamic model of the vehicle, including tire force, nonlinear control, model predictive control, or feedback. Feed-forwards control stabilizes the behavior of the vehicle while tracking the specific path. Good tracking performance has been achieved with these vehicle models and controls even for automotive racing. About the data, the information avoided in the perception system, together with historical information collected from the road networks, the rules of the road, the vehicle dynamics, and the sensors model, all help in the automatic generations of values for control and execution variables of autonomous vehicle. Autonomous vehicle, which operates in complex dynamic environments, require methods that generalize to unpredictable situation and reason in a timely manner in order to reach human level reliability, and react safe even in complex urban situations. Informed decisions require accurate perception. About the storage, with the growth of the smart devices capable of storing information of the cloud, generate an enormous amount of data will become available for alternative usage, which is likely to present challenge and opportunities about data security, privacy concern, and data analytics and aggregation. In a personal mobility based on autonomous vehicle, threats will undoubtedly arise. Unauthorized parties, hackers, or even terrorists could capture data, alter records, instigate attacks or system, compromise drivers' privacy by tracking individual vehicles or identifying their residents. The limitation about these kind of systems, the artificial driving intelligence is still incapable to annotate and categorize driver environment on its own without need for human assistance. Also, much of the earlier tests conducted on autonomous driving were predominantly on open roads and good weather. The technology to obtain data, the sensor as fast as necessary, and the vehicle reactions, the actor, the unexpected events, the ability to store about the network and the process a very large amount of data with adequate speed. So this is general all about my presentation. And thank you for attention. And if you have questions, I think in the last part you can tell me.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We expect much more from your presentation to relate these things with the cyber security, but it's okay. There will be, I think, fruitful discussion on the end. Without any further ado, I would like to invite PhD students Esmeralda Cadena, Dr. Marsadi, Gruppi Oboda, human factors and cybersecurity risk and impact. Please, floor is yours.
Hello, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Yes. Okay.
Just put full screen presentation.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. As I was introduced, I'm Esmeralda Cadena. Actually, I'm from Albania, but I'm studying PhD at Doctoral School on Safety and Security Sciences here in Budapest, Hungary. This work was done by me and Dr. Marsadi Gruppi, which is the head of law department at the University College of Business in Albania. So I'm going to talk about the human factors in cybersecurity risks and impacts. As was mentioned until now from you, so nowadays we are living in this digital revolution, and the work for everyone is becoming easier and easier, but with the convenience, we are also facing some challenges in the cyber security area. At first, I will give a short introduction regarding the topic, then talking about cyber risks and some impacts related, obviously with the human factor and why these human factors are really important, and the conclusions are drawn at the end. So yeah, we are becoming more independent on the technology. On the other side, we see that the systems are becoming more vulnerable to the cyber crimes. Only to mention, regarding to report in cyber security threats in 2021, they costed the world $6 trillion a year, which is twice as in 2015. And only in 2020, according to a study, it was pointed out that 68% of the organizations felt moderately to extremely vulnerable to the insider threats. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of cybercrimes is a rise. And it has been increased like 5-fold. And the healthcare organizations were the first targets. But why these critical situations are so convenient? It has to be mentioned here that the cyber hackers, they are using the social engineering methods, which are really convenient for getting access to the victims' databases or the victims' systems. So I heard that it was mentioned, it was talked about several definitions actually that there are in the cybersecurity field. Here I have put, before speaking about the cyber risks and their impacts, I'd like just to mention that the short definition regarding the cybersecurity, which relies on the SIA security model, confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information and data in the system. And basically, so an attack that is successfully realized can compromise this RIAD. Theft and espionage can result in financial, proprietary, and personal information loss. Risk reduction can vary among organizations and sectors depending on the field that they are operating. So the level of cybersecurity expected from customers may be lower for a company in the entertainment sector than for another company operating in another field like hospital, bank, or government agency. In this work, the cyber risks are categorized into basic groups that are malwares, which are loaded on the system without the legitimate owner's knowledge and intend to break or compromise the system. Most common forms are viruses, worms, spyware, and bot executables. And the other group of the cyber risks in this work are the system vulnerabilities that I'm going to explain them later. So the method of spreading the malwares, the most common method are spam, that sends irrelevant and inappropriate and unrequested messages to a list of recipients. For example, in the second quarter of 2021, corporate accounts have been the most tempting targets for cyber criminals. Another method is phishing that attempts to obtain user credentials detail by impersonating them. Here we can mention, and I guess we are all familiar with them, like links in emails, scammers, imitating emails for popular cloud services, and especially during the pandemic. So most of them were related to the health and to the COVID-19. In addition, this phishing method used technical deception to create links in emails and spoofed websites that belong to a legitimate organization, such as in the case of WHO, for example. Another method is drive-by downloads. There is no regular communication between the target endpoints and the company's servers, and individuals are triggered while viewing an email message on a website, and they are just clicking on the pop-up window. Here, malware is downloaded and automatically installed in the victim's machine without his knowledge. The other group mentioned in this work regarding cyber risk is system risk related with system vulnerabilities. So once a malware is present in the victim system, cyber criminals can search and utilize aspects of existing weak points in the system in order to use them in their malicious activities. The most common exploited vulnerabilities in the system are those related with the hardware, software, network infrastructure, and in the hardware part, the most common forms are Trojans that cause error detection module to accept inputs that should not be accepted. They can insert more buffers in the interconnections of the chips, resulting in consuming more powers. So in this way, they can decrease the battery efficiency of the device more quickly. And denial of service Trojans that exhaust bandwidth, computation, and battery power of systems. And in addition, they can physically destroy, disable, or change the configuration of a device, like as in the case of pumps of generators. The software vulnerabilities are related to bugs, buffer overflow, and input data validation. The bugs are software errors, flaws, or faults in programs that are related with the interface drivers application. And these bugs make systems behave differently from their main function. often arise because of software bugs in memory, user input validation, and user access privileges. The buffer overflow is used by cyber attackers to interfere with the existing process code. They, as we know, buffers hold a limit amount of data. In case if there is extra data or information, the buffer, this information can overflow into the next buffer, so the valid data held in them will be corrupted or overwritten. And the input data validation ensures, the main function is to ensure the data input data follows specific rules. If data validation is done incorrectly, we're going to have data corruption, such in case of the SQL injection. A cyber hacker can inject SQL commands from the web, for example, to change a database content or to get sensitive information such as passwords or credit cards. Another risk in the system vulnerabilities is related with other risks are related with the network infrastructure and protocols, that they exploit the limitation of the network protocols, such as transmission control protocol and domain name system. Of course, the security socket layer and transport layer has been provided in order for end-to-end security between the two computers that sit over TCP. Domain name server replies when they are not authenticated. Attackers can send these malicious messages to access an internet server, and so the communication on the internet will be disrupted. The domain name system is also a target for the denial of service attacks. So the cyber attacks that flood, these are cyber attacks that flood web servers, networks, systems with traffic that destroy victims' resources, and consequently nobody else can access them. So besides of mentioning the cyber risk and the impacts that they might have in economic and the organizational level, economic level, government, and individual level as well, it is of great interest, I guess, to mention, as like the first colleague when started to talk in this conference, so the importance of human factor, and that most of the breaches are related exactly with the human behavior and the way they adopt or the way they are motivated to follow the strict security rules. So in many cases, and according to the literature, the adoption of security technologies has failed to protect organizations from cyber attacks. Cybersecurity threats cannot be understood only by technical issues. Individuals operate computers and other interconnected devices. Like in the case of, we are living in the world of IoT, and the security of such devices and interconnected devices and environments is also a matter of human and organizational factors. Many authors have categorized human and organizational factor. Kramer et al., for example, categorizing them in 9 areas, like the external influences, human error, management, organization, performance and resource management, policy issues, technology, and training. The other authors agreed with them, but they categorized in the factors belonging to the users and factors belonging to the management. Factors belonging to the users are related to security behavior, security belief, lack of motivation, inadequate use of technology, and the factors that belong to management are workload, inadequate staffing. So I must say that security solutions that go only around hardware and software are regarded as unsuccessful. Security solutions should focus more on the user's behavior than technical problems. And according to studies, almost all groups, from basic users to IT professional and IT experts, put themselves at risk by failing to secure their mobile or their other devices properly. For example, if a user's monitor what applications use and install, and this barely happens for a basic user, and checking all the permissions that they are giving to the developers, the data security breaches will not be an issue. Statistics suggest that about 80% of crime is caused or enabled by people who did not intend to do anything wrong, but they did so by accident. And usually, yeah, people are just trying to find the easiest or more efficient way to do their job. And I would say that, yes, we should care more about the people and the people's behaviors and the human factors, because machines are more predictable while people are not. And here I must state that human side is really complex and human behavior is unpredictable, and sometimes, or most of the times, it is overlooked. In general, humans do not make any random movement, and they just want to adapt or like to the systems or the external conditions. And going back to philosophy or mentioning citation, so the end justifies the mean, as Machiavelli mentioned in his book Prince. So people want to have a better security in general, feel safe, and take such actions for better means. But do they really know, understand, and what is better? So while considering the measures, countermeasures against the cyber risk, we shouldn't, we, the academia, but also the organizations in the managerial level, for example, we shouldn't neglect the cultural differences, what might be convenient in a country, or the measures that security measures that are convenient for an organization or for a country that might not adapt to another one. And here we can check the Fukuyama, why he explains that some societies do better than the others. And of course, here must be mentioned the level of stress inherent in the society and social virtues, differences between nations. So understanding the human side and human behavior is the key to mitigate the security risks associated with human factors. Everyone should get trained, and the management, the organizations, the governments, they should explain both what and why. And courses should be run refreshly every day. And the security should start at the top. So from at the top decision makers, and should be easy and safe for people to report these failings. That's why I suggest that the collaboration of private and public organizations, as well as academia, is needed to cultivate a positive security behavior. So, because as Kevin Mitnick said, so companies might continue to spend a lot of millions of dollars on firewalls, layers of security, and so on, but the technology alone is not enough to ensure security. And understanding the factors related to security behaviors may contribute to better technologies, policies, and procedures that effectively motivate people to behave more securely. And understanding these human factors in cybersecurity can better serve in the designing process of cybersecurity solutions. Thank you for your attention.
Darko?
What happened to Darko, by the way? Darko?
I think he lost the connection. Maybe Darko Obradovic, are you here? Okay, maybe let's give a floor to another speaker. I will check the agenda. Just a second.
Yeah.
So the next one after Esmeralda is...
I'm back.
Ah.
Sorry, welcome back.
I'm back. First of all, I would like to thank, I don't know if there is some technical problem. First of all, I would like to thank very much Dr. Esmeralda. I enjoyed so much on her presentation. And I think it will be a lot of comments and questions directed to Dr. Esmeralda. Next on our list is a PhD student, Malak Shatnavi. I hope I pronounced well, from Obuda University.
Thanks.
The topic is impact of digital transformation on mobility and transportation, analysis of mobility user frequency before and during the COVID-19. Dr. Malak Shatnavi, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm sharing my screen now. Everybody see it?
We see you, but we don't see. Please, if you can share, there is a share screen, and just touch on share screen.
Okay.
On the bottom of the.
Yes.
Good. It's coming. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, I have one comment for Professor Darko about the Arab Spring. You talk about the Arab Spring. It's actually, I'm happy that I'm a Jordanian citizen. We don't have any spring till now. So it's for our good luck. Our regime is stable, thank God. And I'm quoting from their speak with my colleagues in Arab world. They said it was for some countries like Arab Spring, but without flowers, or with some flowers, but a lot of thorn. So what we will do? This is the fact. No. You know, I'm talking about the cybersecurity from point of view of transportation engineering, and I'm talking about the cybersecurity from the transportation point of view, because you know it's very important to talk about the sustainability. Sustainability cannot be exit without safety, security in general, and particularly the cybersecurity part, especially this time, during the COVID-19, you know, the crisis, and everything has been shifted to be digital and with smart technology. It will be in general like a model, will be like a mathematical model to predict what will happen with COVID-19. And I'm glad that my colleague Esmeralda speak about the human factor and human behavior. So it's about the human behavior in this pandemic, what will happen with us, and we will see. The title for the paper is Impact of Digital Transformation in Mobility and Transportation, analysis the frequency of mobility users before and during COVID-19 crisis. It's done by me and my professor, of course, Professor Raine. He's my supervisor. Now about the sustainability development and the behavior of the users toward the PT. We know there is a significant relationship between sustainability development in general and the planning for anything else, not just in public transportation. Sustainability is truly about achieving balance between several objectives. It should be environmental, economic, and social, of course. The strongest model for the sustainability is when the environmental domain forms the foundation upon which the social and economic pillars rest. The goal is to predict a model for this article to understand the behavior of the users toward public transportation in order to improve the sector and increase the effectiveness and efficiency of public transportation in a cost manner and to protect the environment, especially with the pandemic crisis we are dealing with now. Smart technology and intelligent sustainability indicators. Achievement the satisfaction is not an easy thing. It can be defined as higher level than predictions created by customers on what in all probability can occur throughout an imminent transaction. Satisfaction cannot be measured in objective terms, but in abstract, we can say that it's a weight of average of multiple indicators that can be measured. The proposed evaluation intelligent mobility model consists of 4 indicators to measure and assess the mobility system. The first one is the efficiency. The second is technology integration.
traffic congestion, and finally accessibility rate. For the efficiency, we need to have everything about the trip duration, and after that, the evaluation of the efficiency duration compared to the total commute can be done. For the technology integration, we use advanced technologies, artificial intelligence, cyber technology, space system, data analysis, autonomous, of course, technologies, and all of that can be evaluated by determining a proportion of advanced technologies used divided by the total area of the city. Traffic congestion is the important thing also, and it's related to all the dimensions of sustainability. Traffic free flow, compare it and evaluate it by estimating traffic time across the entire year and analyze it and compare. Accessibility rate, which is the final indicator that are mentioned, is about to represent the total length of the accessible routes in a comparison to the total length of the route in the routes in the city. Digital transformation and mobility during COVID-19. How COVID-19 plays a significant role in accelerating digital transformation. The previous studies, all of them shows that after the end of the lockdown, there is a remarkable differences in the mobility behavior. The current research will evaluate transportation sector through a questionnaire that includes 3 things. First of all, the effect of coronavirus and the applied restrictions, digital transformation on land mobility and transport system. Second, identify user behavior through studying transport modes and activities and user attitude. Of course, and the tendencies before and during the pandemic. To investigate the factors that affect mode choice and assessing the future transport sustainability, whether it can be recovered probably during any pandemic. Digital transformation for the mobility. Generally, the passengers' decisions about which type of transportation will be used. It is a complex task. It's not an easy decision. It's everything can have on it. It's a human factor and everything related to economic, related to the cost, environment, social also dimensions, or something like that. So that's the case even before the coronavirus. The digital transformation called shifting to remote working, e-learning and shopping, that all lead to reduction in mobility usage. After lockdown, the trend was to avoid public transportation and shifted it to another private modes. Based, of course, this decision was based on a lot of factors. We can summarize some of them here. First of all, and the important one is the safety and health issue. Public transportation considered in the time of the coronavirus as a hotspot virus transmission. Another thing, of course, the government restriction and the strict regulations, perceived risks, reliability and accessibility, mental and physical comfort, alternative mode availability, private and ease and relaxation feeling that private vehicles provide for everything. It's something like you can get used to it as your privacy, your ease, your relaxation, something if you get used to it, if you get used to it, it's difficult to return back to the past. Also uncertainty about the transit service frequency. It is also a fact that transmission to online and remote work, e-learning and shopping will become more visible, which can result in long-lasting reduction in transportation demand. And that for the benefit, of course, of the environment, as air quality improved, accidents and congestion decrease. All of us have noticed that thing. We are very delightful and very happy when we hear the voices of the birds singing again in the atmosphere. Methodology that will be used. The proposed study used a questionnaire with appropriate options in which respondents are asked to make a choice from similar alternatives. It will include socioeconomic characteristics and other demographical variables. The study will investigate 3 things. First, the change in the frequency of use of transportation modes in general for each activity. Question them about the users opinion regarding the future of mobility and the impact of digital transformation, include remotely work, education, e-shopping. Even e-shopping, we are classify them as essential e-shopping and non-essential e-shopping. The third one is how the COVID-19 changed the passenger behavior. It's perceived and unperceived behavior, of course, which govern people attitude for the benefit of other modes, unfortunately. That's why it's important to evaluate the effectiveness of restriction used on the transportation modes to control the spread of COVID-19. The analysis starts by making a comparison of the change in frequency in each category: data conversion, transformation, generating new variable before and during COVID-19. Assessing of measurements model through confirmatory factor analysis and other psychometric properties. The variables in relation to COVID-19 and enforced restriction will be the core of the work. So it is important to assess the elements that affect the behavior of travelers, not just in choosing the mode itself, but also the activity size and the frequency of each trip. Figures below will show users' questionnaire variables that comparing two stages by studying all types of transportation modes, either public, private, motorized, non-motorized, and so on. And also the mobility activities such as work, studying activities, free time, leisure time, social, and shopping mobility. This is the first figure that we are going to talk about. It's about showing the difference effect of the different transportation modes and activities. We are taking each activity alone and compare it with each mode that have been chosen. Of course, there is change in mobility for each activity. There is several activities with several modes, so it's multi relationship. It's not just linear thing. Implementation will be analysis in comparison on change in the frequency in each category. This is the second figure. It's about the perceived effectiveness of applied restrictions. As we know, the applied and restricted regulation that have been applied to the system in all countries have been affected, not just the transportation system, all systems, of course. First, we will define the change in the user's frequency of transport modes, moderate the attitudes effect on change in using transportation mode, bus, taxi, trams, etc. Of course, and the private vehicles, of course. And define the change in users' frequency of transportation activities, moderate the attitude effect on change in using transportation activities, either work, study, shopping, and etc. Implementation analysis will be assessing of measurement model through confirmatory factor analysis and other psychometric properties, at least for attitude, structural equation modeling to assess the causal relationship. And the final graph is about the perception of the enforcement restriction, as perceived, of course, by the transportation users. It's from transportation passenger users' point of view. Influence on the spread of COVID-19. Implementation will be regression analysis or structural equation. The recommendations, first of all, in each step, there will be a complementary analysis. There will be a risk assessment, evaluation to assess the influence of all factors, including the attitude, satisfaction toward mobility and public transportation, perception on the future of mobility, and perception on the reinforcement act on each change. And finally, the last recommendation is about how when we are going to transfer to the digital and smart transformation. Of course, to have this social distance or something like that, or to do whatever it have to be taken with the public transportation services. Some of these are summarized here. It's a lot of things to talk about, but at the time it cannot be helpful. Smart cameras, vision, and sensors to assess situation and social distancing, checking the physical situations, machine learning to identify and recognize their location, and the nearby pedestrian, passengers, traffic conditions, and the degree of risk in the public places. Using machine learning and, of course, artificial intelligence can be developed mechanism to reduce and minimize both the pedestrians and vehicle delay and maintain peak social distance at stop station, which is very important to track at-risk humans, to detect humans with certain symptoms and track infected persons, as well as elder people to make sure that they are in self-protected zone. With all of these, it is important to protect and not breach the privacy of innocent and committed people from becoming victims, not only as a health attack, but also from cyber attack. Data protection mechanism, including data anonymism and randomization and aggregation should be utilized. For example, we can activate the feature of sensitive information and personal identities in sensitive equations to exchange or anonymize, show or hide according to the person's desire through trusted mobile users to avoid any attackers. Thank you for listening. I'm ready for any question.
Thank you so much. Next on our list is PhD student Ramiro Vargas from Obuda University. Stress effect in the police force, inside and safety implication. And I would like to ask Mr. Ramiro also to take some overview on cybersecurity. So how cybersecurity is related to this topic. Please, Mr. Vargas, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for letting me be part of the webinar in cybersecurity. Can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so this, let's say, literature review was performed by Mrs. Ruiz Salvador, who preceded me, and me. We wanted this is the agenda for the presentation. We will start with the motivation and some points related to this topic, which is very important in security. And I will take the cybersecurity approach somehow. We have the motivation, the work stresses in police officers, safety repercussions, and practices and prevention techniques. So first of all, the motivation. The WHO organization, the World Health Organization, has stressed that four of the most stressful professions are teaching, social working, health professions, and of course, police officers, because the nature of their work faces a lot of day-to-day events like deaths, abuse, crime, traumatic events, and the risk of the profession itself, because whenever they face a crime or an event like, I don't know, earthquakes or so, they put their life to risk themselves. So our motivation goes to police officers because they ensure the security of the whole population. And we mainly focused on the case of the Ecuadorian police. So talking about the work stresses in police officers, we have the work essence, the organization context, and the internal stressors. Regarding the work's essence, we all are aware that police officers, they go through a lot of shifts at works. Their work is not constantly performed from, let's say, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. No, they work whenever they are needed. Therefore, they have also a lot of extra hours to perform. They have also court duties. They have to bring the criminal to the court. They have to take care of who knows, the most wanted robbery of the city or something like that. Just as a small example. And of course, they go through traumatic events because sometimes they are facing how a crime is happening in front of them. And sometimes they even have to kill someone. So this is traumatic for them, even though most people don't think that way. They think they have been trained to face these events. Of course, we have some other stressors like the organizational context, the bureaucracy. In the case of Ecuador, especially, the bureaucracy is related to the process to further their career. Like, for instance, after 4 years of the initial training, they become an officer and they have to go through a lot of bureaucracy to go further and further in their career. And sometimes the process is not clear enough. And that causes stress because if they cannot perform in such a way they can advance, they are immediately fired from the lines of the police in Ecuador. There is also the relation with co-workers. And at some point, it's also about the leadership, because according to police officers from Ecuador, if there is a good leadership, if there is a person who knows how to work and how to put you according to the abilities you have to perform a certain work, then you can perform in a better way. There is also the internal stressors, of course, because of shifts at work and these extra hours. They share less and less time with the family. This also leads to some economic problems sometimes, because let's say they get an injury or they, of course, the national health service provides them all what they need, all the money. But in the end, eventually the family also, they leave apart all of their work to take care of the police officer. So this leads to economic problems. There are also another symptoms that are related to these stressors. They are very visible in the sleep disorder. There is also the, I don't I don't want to lead to bring this topic to a debate, but at some point there is also this mentality of the police officer, the female police officer, who has to perform harder and harder at their job to prove they are worthy enough to be police officers. Because of the manly mentality, we do not see her as a figure of respect, or at some point as a figure who can protect you. So that's kind of related to the Latin American mentality. So the woman who is a police officer, she always has to prove that she is worth for the work. And of course, all these stressors are also visible in alcoholism. Many cases in Ecuador, the police officers are somehow social alcoholics. Now, what are the safety repercussions? And there is a relation, an inverse relation between the work stress and the job commitment. The higher your work stress, the less your job commitment, and the engagement you have to be a good police officer should be high, because in the end, you have a self-motivation to protect people. And if this motivation, the self-motivation, the job commitment goes down, then you wouldn't be able to protect the people who trust you. During this pandemic, the COVID-19, of course, the frontliner workers were police officers, and they had to enforce the social distancing, among other duties, of course. So this status was influenced by political corruption, especially in Latin America, of course, the misbehaved citizens, the lack of knowledge regarding the illness itself, because we didn't know the symptoms, so they exposed themselves to the pandemia, and they were afraid of spreading the illness in their families. So there was a lot of lack of knowledge and the fear of infection. Well, those were the safety repercussions. We need to be sure that the work stress is under control. Otherwise, their job commitment goes down, and then we do not have the people who protect us. It's quite a big issue. Now, regarding the practices and prevention techniques, many papers have discussed about the importance of acknowledgement. For instance, there was a case in the United Kingdom, a police officer, he worked for 30 years already. And he realized that during the 30 years, he never attended a doctor willingly because he wasn't aware of his own health condition. Why? Because they are more concerned about the duties of their work. If they leave their duties because they want to go to the doctor, then they may miss the opportunity to advance in their career. So they work so hard, and sometimes this work is not well acknowledged. So a constant acknowledgement has been proven to decrease the work stress in police officers. That's one of the good practices and prevention techniques. The self-awareness and self-care, which I just mentioned, sometimes the openness to realize about a psychological issue is not as we would like it to be. Police officers, they cannot show any sign of vulnerability, especially in Latin America. So they think psychological problems are directly related to vulnerability. So they are not self-aware of it. But eventually the psychological problems can lead to some other, I don't know, cardio illnesses or physical irreversible effects. And regarding the self-care, of course, they rather go to their job, they perform because they want to advance, and they do not care about themselves.
Ramiro, I'm sorry to stop you, but the title of your presentation is cybersecurity. Can you relate your presentation to cybersecurity, or you have 3 minutes to conclude, please?
Okay, then I conclude. Then one of the last practices on prevention techniques was the emotion management training. Again, this is related to vulnerability because they cannot show emotions. The early detection of sleep disorder is a key factor to recognize whether the shift is appropriate for the workers. And last but not least, and this is for all the works, for all kinds of jobs, the family recreation activities are so needed so they can release themselves for a while. So one of the main conclusions, two of the main conclusions, is we shouldn't put police officers at risk of psychological problems because they assure the security of the whole society. And we should change in some way the social convention because police officers can also show some vulnerability so they can express their emotions and then they can perform in a better way. I'm sorry I didn't link this to the cybersecurity aspect, but thanks for your kind attention. If there's any further question, it's more than welcome.
Stay with us, Mr. Ramiro. I have a question for you. Why you apply for this webinar on cybersecurity? Because your presentation, nothing has to do. What is your motivation, your personal motivation to apply to speak on this webinar? What you want to achieve? Because you see a title, first title of your presentation is a cybersecurity. What you expose here, nothing has to do with the cyber. So what is your motivation to come to this panel? Don't be offended, just I want to know.
Oh, no offense taken, no worries at all. No, actually I was working in a more complex research with my fellow colleague Lourdes Ruiz. This is only the initial step, okay? Of course, there are some other research to be performed yet, because during the pandemic, in cybersecurity issues in Ecuador, the police officers had to change everything, and they were not ready to perform. So this is only the initial step for further and further researchers. Actually, our whole article was requested to be extended, and I'm sorry, this is only the initial state, but we will have something more interesting for you in later webinars.
Thank you, Mr. Ramiro. My advice for you, because you have a Professor Anai Zoltan, if you think to obtain PhD with Professor Zoltan, our mentality is almost the same. So you need to show something what relates your title with a further presentation. In your presentation, we did not hear anything which relates cybersecurity with other things. We expect, concluding that conference is about that. You have chance to speak on before world-class expert like Professor Gordon Akrap, like Professor Shaul Shai, and many others. We heard the presentation of your colleague Esmeralda, which targets directly to the center. From your presentation and few more presentations, because you are a PhD candidate, so stay in contact. My advice for you: stay in contact with Esmeralda and Katarina Stolarikova. Katarina, she's Dr. Katarina Stolarikova. She took PhD in that regard, and keep contact with Katarina if you want to do something with cybersecurity. Both, I think, Esmeralda and Dr. Katarina Stolarikova can advise you and guide you. So thank you so much. And next time when you have chance to address your speech before this like a panel like this distinguished panel, you cannot miss the topic. You need to be focused. What is the title? So
okay.
Next our speaker on the list, and I would like to ask Ali Bakri Mohammed. I see the title is very interesting: Optimizing Perimeter Surveillance Drones from Doctoral School on Safety and Security in Abu Dhabi University. I would like to ask Mr. Mahmoud, also to focus drone cyber security. There is a lot of things, etc. So if you prepare something which is not related to cyber security, just for the drones, let's conclude this session because we are beyond out of time. But if you can tell us something what relates cyber security and drones, I think there is a lot of space. Floor is yours, please, sir.
Sorry, Professor Darko, because PhD Mahmoud now is in USA, so there's the different gap of the time. So now it's like the very early in the morning. So he said that he couldn't join in this conference now. So I think that we can conclude our conference.
So thank you so much. I think now is the time for the Q&A, question and answer. So if there is any question, please, this is the time. But before we start with the Q&A, I would like to also invite you, 30th of November, we will have African Security Conference with our African colleagues. And same, we're going to publish outcome of this conference in our journal for the first issue in 2022. Regarding this issue, whoever want to write down the specific topic is cyber security. So our journal is open. So November 30 is deadline because we're going to publish everything from this conference, and there will be another conference for Aljansky University from Northern Macedonia, and we're going to collect from both conference articles. After the review, we're going to publish. So just you're free to ask. If there is no question, I would like to thank Professor Ainai Zoltan. I would like to thank our friend Dr. Akrap. I would like to thank all of you for the participation. And of course, we are open for you to assist you, to help you in any sense. And I thank you all for participation. All the best. Bye-bye.
Hello, Darko. Before you go,
yes, Kido, from Tanzania, from Ngorongoro or from Montmero? From where you are calling us?
Now I'm in Dar es Salaam. I traveled yesterday.
Good.
I before you close up, because the internet was not doing well, I missed the point where you said so we should sort some questions. So I had a couple of questions here for the presenters, and I think they should come up to clear the air. You know, one is the presentation speaks one concept is during the COVID-19 cyber attack has increased. So my concern is what has happened there? Does it mean the COVID-19 has contributed to the increase of attack or what? So that was a one follow-up question. And the second one was, it's the same. The COVID-19 has contributed to digital transformation. Now my concern, what has happened now? What has happened in between? So I'd like to know. And the last thing is, when the European countries, when they look for on a cyber security, does it show an opportunity to advance security system, or does it show that the initiative was done in the past will be weak from the cyber security? So those are my 3 questions I'd like to hear from the speakers, and I really appreciate to hear from them. So thank you, Darko.
Thank you, Mr. Kudo. I think Ms. Malak can answer on that. Her presentation was direct in that direction.
Could you please repeat the questions? There was a bad connection maybe, or I did not hear well what he was talking about.
Okay, no worries about that. My question was on 2 sides. One is, why do we term COVID-19 has increased the cybersecurity? And 2, why do we term COVID-19 as contributed to the digital transformation? I want to know what's so special with COVID-19. Yeah. Did you get my question right there?
Okay, maybe yes. I will try to answer. Actually, we have been limited for 10 minutes presentation. It has been a lot to talk about if we have a lot of time to speak. For your first question about cybersecurity and the COVID-19, you know, have been accelerating in the digital transformation and smart technology that have been not happened before. Okay, there was a smart technology, there was a technology at the same time going on and parallel to our life, but it was not accelerating like this one that we have been forced as COVID-19 situation to do it. Some countries are successful with that and have been the time and also the efforts, the energy to succeed and to recover. Some of them, unfortunately, cannot. One of them is my country. So when we are talking about the cybersecurity, I'm not immature to do it, to be interfere with the, you know, the mobility or the mobile for the persons, to have the recognition, to have their permission to know about the social distance, about the how, for example, as I said, about the public transportation in general, and if I want to share it, the last recommendation that I have been talking about, how we can use smart cameras and how we can use this application as you know, artificial intelligence and the application related to any smart technology, machine learning. We have to ask these people to be interfere in their lives. We want them to be social distances. This is one. We want to know the certain person that have some symptoms and track them, some people that have been infected, comparing with the innocent people that have been going with all the rules. So of course the cybersecurity can interfere with that thing. And at the same time, we do not want to introduce in the life of the innocent people. And because of that, we said will be a cyber attack for some kind of data protection for the mechanism for the people. The mechanism should be include how to aggregation with digitalization. For example, we know that there is certain of information that will be personal. Okay, it's not related to social distance or the citizen or something else. But how we can protect also elder people? All of this should be taken into consideration. And your second part, it's about the request about the transportation specific, I think. Hello.
Thank you, Malak. So,
hello. My question was not specific on transportation. My question was how do COVID-19 contribute to digital transformation? Because it doesn't sound well to me. Only COVID-19 with a certain big impact. I think there could be someone else who could look on that, but it's okay, yeah.
Good, thank you, Mr. Kido. Any more questions?
Before you go, I had the last question for Catalina. Catalina, are you around? Catalina?
Yes.
Okay. My question was when you look to the trends on a cyber attack for the European countries, do you see that it's an opportunity for European countries to advance their security system, or do you see it's display how much the security system was not well prepared for that? How do you see that, Katarina?
It's the opportunity for Europe to do what?
Okay, let me repeat it again. When you look on cyber security or cyber security attacks trends, do you see is an opportunity for European countries to advance their security system, or do you see it shows the weakness of the security system for the European countries? How do you see that, Katarina?
Okay, it's a tough question. The important thing is that there is no such a European army, like a common army of the EU. So all these security issues are on the burdens of the single countries, or a NATO as an alliance of countries, because most of the European countries are members of NATO. So no system is not non-vulnerable.
Okay. We don't hear you, Katarina. We don't hear you. Katarina, we don't hear you, Katarina.
We don't hear you, Katarina.
Yeah.
Yes, now. Good.
Now, do you hear me now?
Yes, please continue.
Yeah, we hear you now. Come again.
Okay. So on the EU level, there is I have no awareness about such a thing or strategy, common strategy for. Okay. You have all these policy papers and all these white papers, which are like bullshit and not efficient tools. You have cybersecurity on the NATO level, and you have cybersecurity on the countries level. Every European country has a CERT. It's a unit for cybersecurity incidents. And some of them, for example, in Baltics, they are very advanced in cybersecurity. In other European countries, it depends on the country. But every country should focus on improving the system. But for example, maybe you know very famous antivirus and anti-malware company ESET, which is now in Silicon Valley, but originally is from Slovakia. I mentioned them many times in my research and my presentation. They are also producing their proactive detection systems. I know that cybersecurity, when it's very advanced on a very advanced level and very effective, is very expensive. But also when you look on Ukraine, during the Ukrainian crisis, there was a huge playground of various malwares and various testing of cyber attacks in Ukraine and blackouts and etc. power outages. So, for example, the old-fashioned systems of Ukrainian power plants were a big advantage for them, because they were much more resilient for cyber attacks than the high-tech modern ones. So it's very, very tough questions, and it's very hard to answer. There are several factors influencing the stage of the protection, and you never can feel like fully protected, because all these hackers are one step further.
That's Catalina. That's a good insight, and I think if you could spend some time drafting a paper for the African context, it would be very well. Dako, talk to Dako more. I think you could bring a good perspective in that general paper. How do you see that, Dako?
Say again, Mr. Kido, what you say?
I was saying Catalina could bring a good perspective on cybersecurity in African context. I see that.
Of course, she is.
With pleasure. I will be very happy, and I already have connected with Esmeralda and Kiduo on LinkedIn. So all of you who are interested to stay in touch, let's find ourselves in social networks, and we can stay in touch and cooperate in further discussions and to follow up.
Okay, to finally, it has been a good opportunity to learn on the cybersecurity, and yeah, let's see what the future holds. But I will be around with Sabia people. Thank you a lot, Dako.
Thank you, Kido. Karibu, asante sana. So this is the last. We are concluding this session, and we are expecting your articles, but focused on cybersecurity. Thank you so much, and goodbye to all.
Thank you, Darko.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye bye to everyone. It's been a good session to learn. Bye bye.
Vasco.